Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and today I have with me special guest Alex Ramirez, president of the Collienar Group. Alex brings over 20 years of aerospace engineering, software development, and executive leadership experience across multiple global leading aerospace and defense companies. Organizations served includes Boeing, Airbus, Raytheon Technologies, as well as government agencies including the U.S. Department of Defense, FAA, and EAS. Alex leads Collienar Group's solution strategy and specialized capabilities to meet the ever-dynamic aerospace industry needs of primes, new space, and advanced air mobility clients by leveraging a unique combination of innovation, technology, and regulatory compliance experience. In his free time, Alex serves on the board of directors of the Entrepreneurial Organization, a global peer-to-peer network of 16,000 business owners across 61 countries. Alex is committed to driving meaningful impact to the global economy and our local communities. Good morning, Alex.
Morning, Dave. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this show. So that's quite the resume read that we went through there, and you have done so much in over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I've always just had a passion since I graduated from college for aerospace. I just love the just the change, right? I mean, the looking into the stars and saying, hey, man, there's some cool stuff, big dreams, and that's a big theme of entrepreneurship, right? Thinking big, being bold, and saying, hey, and that's one of the things that's always driven me through to, attracted me to aerospace, aviation, and defense is that big, bold thinking.
Yeah, I love that. So not only do you do that, you're a part of EO. We're in the same forum, so that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun. Yeah. And you also have your own podcast show.
I do. Yeah, we just launched it, Wheels Up, Future of Flight, inspired by Dave Westcott and the entrepreneurial journey. It's been amazing, the insights that I've gleaned from watching you, from the entrepreneur aspect. And I thought, it'd be cool to share what's going on in aerospace, aviation, defense with the general public. There's a lot that's happening that a lot of folks don't know about. And just being able to talk to experts and, glean insights of what's happening across the industry for the general public is something that we've launched, and it's been going really well.
That's awesome. And thank you for that. I love that. And I also love the name, Wheels Up. That's a great name for a show. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. I mean, the whole credit to our director of marketing was hey, look, how do we get people to come on this journey with us, right? Wheels up, time to take flight and talk about the future of the industry and where we're going, and provide insight and bring expert guests on. It's been a really cool experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're doing a lot of things. You're on the board of directors. As an entrepreneur, I love to try to get as real as possible on the show. As an entrepreneur, how tough is it to manage family, business, board of directors, podcast, everything else that might be going on in life? How do you balance all that? It's
tough, right? And that's one of the things that's that's a nice thing about EO that I've loved is as an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely, right? And it can feel like, oh, I'm the only one that's dealing with how to balance all these what many times feel contradicting priorities, right, between business and family and community and friends and giving back, etc. And so be able to be part of a community where you can share these things and say, hey, what tools do you use? How do you kind of keep yourself organized and aligned to your values? And it comes down to your why, right? Well, what is really important to you? I know for me personally, it's family first, always, business, and then community and friends and all that stuff. But trying to keep that in mind. That say, hey, why am I doing certain things? Why am I? It helps me keep organized. And again, I've learned that from being around other entrepreneurs like yourself, Dave, and saying, hey, well, how do you prioritize yourself? What systems and process do you use to kind of help keep balance? And, as they say, right, first things first, and making sure that you're being true to yourself in that way.
I love that. Family first. So interestingly enough, I'm going to launch an additional podcast. Okay. And I'm going to do one with my wife.
Awesome.
You want to talk about really bringing the pain, man? I'm going to do a podcast with my wife because we homeschool our kids. And so we're going to do a podcast on homeschooling.
Oh.
And I don't know. You know what? It's going to be crazy, but it's cool because you get to involve your wife, family, in the day-to-day of the business. And, potentially, maybe I'll have the kids on a couple times. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be wild and crazy. But that's just a side note. But listen, you mentioned, earlier before we were on the call, you said one of the things you said was, we were talking about the podcast I shot last week and note I put on social media where, I was struggling on the show. I had some technology difficulties, blah, blah, blah. And you mentioned, man, nothing ever goes right, or maybe some things go right, but it can feel like that as an entrepreneur. And, you mentioned EO, which is a great organization, 16,000 business owners where you can really, share who you are. I've been in business, in this business 20 years and entrepreneur for 25. So at the end of the day, this is what I've done with my life, is be an entrepreneur to this point. And kind of the sentiment of nothing ever goes right. Plans never go as as perceived, as projected, is something that we as entrepreneurs really deal with. I'll give you a quick example. Yesterday we had our annual planning session, or our quarterly planning session. And we ask a couple of questions. What went right? What went wrong? And what do we learn? And I'll tell you that I look at the 2 pages of what went wrong, and I think to myself, because if you outwardly looking, or you look at the business, it's like, oh man, Dave's a pretty successful guy, and oh man, all these things are going on and whatever. But you look at all of those things that people read off the list, and I got to tell you, like, one, it's kind of irritating, because it's like, don't we go over this every week? What do you mean we don't communicate with you? You know what I mean? Or whatever it might be. But then two, really taking it personal. Like it's hard not to take those things personal. But as a good entrepreneur, I believe you've got to dig deep. You've got to look at those things as a reflection of what could I have done better? What could my team have done better? How can I grow better? And then when you get to your quarterly planning, when you don't hit your goals, when you don't hit your rocks, maybe you hit 1 or 2 of them, but you miss 3, how does that make you feel as an entrepreneur? How do you deal with that? How do you correct and manage your team? So I guess in your experience and what you go through, do you ever have a similar challenge? And if you do, how do you work through it?
Oh, absolutely, Dave. I mean, that's just common, right? I mean, being an entrepreneur and being a leader really is number one. I think the 2 points: resilience. Right? Nothing ever goes to plan. You're spot on. That doesn't mean you don't work on strategy. It doesn't mean you don't set a plan and you try to set a course to get everybody aligned. That's the second point: is getting everybody on the same page. working through that. I think my first EO meeting that I ever went to, I don't think it was on our forum, but in another, somebody said something to me that was really profound. And to this day is like, that to me was a money worth well spent in joining the organization is work on the business, not in the business, right? It seems so simple, but so profound to say, hey, look, you as a leader need to work on things like strategy and vision, getting everybody bought into that. ROI, right? Managing where you're making investments to make sure that the team collectively is set up for success to achieve the goals that you've set out. Culture, so big, right? And making sure that people are feeling empowered and also held accountable to those goals and saying, hey, how are we working together as a team to achieve those things? And then, continuous learning, right? I mean, you just said, I love what you just said is, hey, look, yes, I think our innate reaction is to say, how can, you get frustrated and all that, but that's the thing I love about EO for me personally has been a lot of self-reflection and saying, hey, look, don't blame the team, right? Control what you can control, which is how can I communicate better? How can I elevate the team better? How can I, do I need more coaching? Do I need to, communicate things differently? How can I improve as a leader to inspire the vision and, and align to the finance targets and the company objectives that we're all trying to achieve? So that's the way I look at it. And it's a continuous learning journey.
I love that. And I think the one thing I would add is that when you establish your quarterly goals, you have your non-negotiables. Like, we have to sell $14.5 million in this Q2. If you do not hit that X, and now everybody knows what the number one priority is. And now they can say, okay, great. Now my goals in my departments come alongside and I align with that. And I believe that that's how we get that clarity, and that's how we, get that communication. That's how we get that alignment, is just making sure we're clear on our goals and our vision. You mentioned something here that I thought was really important was culture. And to set that up, the Collienar Group, you do a lot of work in aerospace. For some on the call, they may not know exactly what that means. So question one is kind of, what is the Collienar Group? What is aerospace? What does that look like? And then question two would be, do you have remote workers?
Sure. I'll start with the easy answer, which is yes, we have remote workers. Actually, a lot of our work is virtual, but we are on site too with our customers. Now, what Collienar Group does, we're an engineering services company specialized in aerospace, right, which is aviation, space, and defense. So when you think of aviation, clearly your big, I'll call them traditional aerospace players, your Boeings, Lockheeds, Raytheon, working in aviation and space and defense. Now, there's a lot of what I would call your traditional space, right? We all take commercial travel, for example, right? You take your airlines and all that. Working with the manufacturers that produce those aircraft is a lot of the work that we do. Working with regulators for how making those airplanes safe is a lot of the work that we do, right? Clearly, that's been making a lot of headlines this year. It's keeping us quite busy. But what people don't know is that there's a lot of new emerging innovation and technology happening in the space as well. You got commercial space, right? We've seen what SpaceX is now doing with all of these new satellites and reusable rockets. Blue Origin here in Seattle is growing rapidly. I think they're up to like 10,000 employees locally. I mean, they've got a huge footprint and presence. Lots of exciting activity happening in commercialization of space. That market is expected to could significantly grow over the next 10, 20 years. So, and then you got this eVTOL space, or what we call advanced air mobility. So these flying taxis, right? I mean, basically drones for commuting people from one place to another. What's happening is in these highly congested cities, right? You think about like Los Angeles or Paris, where it takes you, an hour to go a mile, right? In traffic. Yeah. It's like, would you pay, call it a premium? I don't know. I'm just making this number up. $100, $200 to fly 10 minutes, right? You cut an hour drive time to 45 minutes, kind of like an Uber, to say, hey, I'll take you across town. Or even here in Seattle, right? You go from downtown Seattle to downtown Bellevue. You can spend an hour in your car, or you pay $100, $200. You can go across and get you there in 15 minutes. The technology's there. It's these drones are they're basically drones for flying folks around. It's there now. It's, hey, can we regulate it? Can we make it safe? Do we have the infrastructure in place to actually go commercialize it? So that's a lot of the work we're doing, is working with the regulators and these companies to say, how do we, bring this technology to the public in a safe way, especially again with all of the public awareness that's going on right now in terms of aviation and safety across the industry. So it's a lot of fun activity that's happening.
Okay, first of all, I love that. I would definitely pay the $100. I was just calculating in my head, okay, well, listen, if I got to go to and fro the office to my home, that's where I really want that commuting time. Sure. What is that, $1,000 a week? So I'm going to pay $52,000 a year to commute back and forth, but I get to ride in a little airplane. I was like, okay, that's worth it, and I think that's awesome. Thought two that popped into my head was, I don't want to end up like Kobe Bryant on a foggy day and have my drone go down. So I'm glad that you're working on the compliance and the safety and all of those particular items. I want to get back to the remote work. I love that idea. I think that's a whole podcast just around, these flying taxis. I love that. But remote work, so you touched on something. A lot of your team is working virtual. A lot of your team is working remote. A lot of your team is working from home. I think one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have today is, how do I compete in a market? How do I hire better talent, right? We're all looking for talent. We're all looking for A players. And this idea of coming into the office 5 days a week, is tough for some. Some people love it. Some people like a hybrid. My biggest question to you is, if you are building culture and that is a top, priority, how do you build culture with remote employees? How do you do that?
It's a $1 million question right there, Dave. And I think, that's a question that everything from us, right, is, entrepreneurs to big corporations, you even hear locally talk about, like, the Microsofts and the Facebooks. And I mean, we're all struggling with this new normal. How do we continue to evolve? Actually, there was a big article on Nike right down in Oregon just last week, where the CEO came out and said, hey, look, this whole new remote world is really stifling innovation, right? They're some of these new entry players in the market, like on cloud, and some of they're really Nike's struggling to keep up. And he basically was saying, look, it's this new remote. I need folks in the office working together, that collaborative culture. That's he was kind of making the point that, hey, look, we communication, the culture is just. We got to figure out how. So bottom line is, we're all struggling with that. I don't think there's a silver, answer to it on how to fix it. We've tried a few things, right? Doing these quarterly meetings where we get the whole company together. We've done a few virtual team building activities. We had like a bingo day a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's
cool. Get the whole company to kind of play games virtually and all that, but. The bottom line is you can't really supplement for in face-to-face, coming together as a team. So we try to do that again on a quarterly basis minimum. And then supplement where we can with some of these team building type initiatives. We have every other week kind of all hands company meeting where we do recognition of employees, highlight projects that people are working on. Any kind of initiatives where we can highlight and both employees, contributions that employees are making to the culture, recognition, are definitely areas. But I don't think it's a new normal, right? We're all trying to figure out how to best navigate it, knowing that it's the rules have changed, right, post-COVID. So how do you manage it? I think we're all struggling with it.
They have changed, and I love all of those ideas that you've brought to the table. And I think, just for the audience, one, you're playing some virtual games, you're having some fun with that, you're building some connectivity, getting people to close, getting to interact outside of, design, engineering, just normal business work. And then two, you're recognizing employees on a weekly basis. You're having all hands meetings. You're doing things to engage the team, bring them together, and really run that. And so I think that's really, really cool. One of the keys to building highly effective teams that, really crush it. In business, we all have goals and aspirations. And as we grow our businesses and become more effective, highly effective teams, one of the keys to them is interpersonal relationships. And one of the things that I see that kind of gets missed in the remote world, and listen, half my staff is remote, okay? So I deal with this too, right? Like, not only do we offshore in the Philippines, in Mexico, in Colombia, we also have remote staff, in the East Coast and the South. So at the end, we've got a lot of remote team members. But what you see is that the interpersonal relationship is what gets missed. When you have a group of team and you have your quarterly meetings, you see people congregate together in little groups and they chat and they have fun and they've got connectivity. And it comes down to kind of that idea of like, who's your best friend at work, right? Are you going to go to a basketball game with that person, a football game? You're going to have a few beers after work, whatever it might be. The thing that I believe that is really hard to regenerate is the interpersonal relationships that create highly effective teams that it really enable us to scale and solve problems. And I think to Nike's thought, without that collaboration, without that connectivity, I think it almost becomes like the swipe generation, right? Like it almost becomes this epidemic of, well, I didn't like my boss today. I don't like my job today. I don't like what like swipe left. I'm just moving to the next experience. And I think we even see it in resumes now where, in the past we're looking at a resume and we're like, okay, they've been there 5 years, 20 years, 15 years. All right, they're probably pretty good. What happened with the 5 years? Why was that so short or whatever? And then now we're looking at resumes and it's like 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years, 1 year. And it's like every 6 to 8 months, 12 months, we're changing jobs. And as employers, it's like, we want that person who's going to say, I'm going to be here and I'm going to help you build and I'm going to help you grow and let's do this thing for 20 years. And I don't think the idea of an employee for 20 years is realistic anymore. Like, I think it's like, hey, if I'm here for a year, it's lucky. And I think that in the interview process, that's something we need to begin addressing. And then as owners, as executives, as C-level individuals, or even if we're a smaller business with 2 to 3 people, like, we need to understand how we're going to build those interpersonal relationships so that we can really build highly effective teams. I'm wondering, and I know that none of us have the solution to this today, but I'm wondering what you're doing, what your thoughts are on the interpersonal relationship.
Yeah, I mean, again, we struggle with that even on our leadership team, I would say, right? I mean, all of our leadership team is remote. We try to get together, at least weekly in person as an executive team but even that is, you still don't have the interpersonal, hey, let's go to lunch, let's go, everybody's busy with families and, our own personal lives and all that. So, making that a priority and saying, hey, how do we do more team building? And we've tried to do that at the leadership team level through exercises. But definitely areas for improvement there, because you're spot on, Dave. I mean, those interpersonal relationships are key for highly effective teams, right? Otherwise, you have miscommunications or misunderstandings, or you misinterpret things because you just don't have those. Hey, I know Dave. I know how he thinks. I know how he operates, because we have that out of, and it's, otherwise you make assumptions, right? Oh, Dave, said this. He may be thinking, it's like that's where those interpersonal things become so critical. As far as the broader team, I think for us, we found has been most effective, especially with this, we've talked a lot recently in the news about generations, right? This new Gen Z. Yeah. How do you get them inspired? How do you get them motivated? For us, it's been about mission and vision, right? And the statements and our core values, and saying, hey, look, this is who we are. And not only, I say this all the time to the team, right? These can't just be words on a page. this is who we are, and showing our employees that, hey, look, we're doing a company's based on a purpose here. Going back to, for us, right, the aerospace, getting folks excited about, hey, look, you're making real impact, you're making real change, you're part of a community in our company that's going out there building on something that's much bigger than all of us, right? How can you contribute to be something bigger than just for yourself and your own personal career, but make you feel like you're part of this culture and company that's really trying to make a big impact on society at large. I've seen that be pretty effective, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, people need to feel valued. And then it goes back to that recognition, right? Recognize employees, recognizing projects, but it all kind of comes back to that common vision, mission, values. Look, we're all rowing in the same direction, thinking of the same. Now that there's a bit of a double-edged sword, which we have seen folks exit, but that's not a bad thing, right? It's to say, look, I'm on the wrong bus. This company,
Totally.
what this company's trying to do, and and a lot of times it's unfortunate, but we say, hey, well, we want you to be happy. Go find somewhere where you are. But in lieu of that, we are getting folks that are say, hey, I believe in the mission that Collienar Group is working. I want to be part of this. I want to go be part of this change and this exciting work that you guys are doing. And we're slowly continuing to build that. And we have pretty good retention, I would say. But to your point, we've seen a lot of those resumes too, right? And you're starting to see that a lot.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the reasons that you're mentioning is this post-COVID, people wanting remote work or wanting certain things or having certain seller expectations. I mean, it's just been this, it's been a challenging time for recruiting and retaining, solid employees. But that, I would say that the mission, vision, culture statements, the VTO from EOS,
Yep.
having that solid to have everybody on the, have a common understanding of what we're trying to do and much bigger purpose has been something that has been really useful for us.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic answer. And I'll kind of caveat it with this. Even in EO Entrepreneurs Organization, we're in forum together. We're in a quantum forum, which is more similar to probably a YPO than a traditional EO forum. But even there, where we're like 90% business, I think that even in that interpersonal relationship is still really important. And I think having that a part of your EO group is part of what brings power to it, is that interpersonal relationship. I remember the first time I went to Forum Retreat as part of the Quantum Forum was I ended up hanging out with the people from my previous forum more so than the people from my Quantum Forum, just because of the fact that there was more of a personal connection. And I think it's whether it's EO, whether it's your business, whether it's relationships, boards of directors, whatever it might be, really getting down and building those relationships, no matter how hard it is, no matter what you have to do, getting to know people outside of work, getting to know what are their dreams, what do they love to do for recreation, who is their family, those sort of things, I think are really, really important so that we do build those bonds. We do get those right people on the bus. But when we do get those people on the bus that are the right people, we got to keep them there.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal. Okay, you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. What's one of the toughest things that you've ever been through, and how did you pull yourself out of it?
Oh, man. One of the toughest things that, as we've talked, Dave, there's been several, right? As an entrepreneur, nothing ever goes to plan. So, it's just showing that resilience and being able to, I would say, again, our business is in aviation. Aviation has been through some ups and downs here over the last 3 years. And it's been multiple times where you feel like, man, are we in the right business? Do you throw in the towel? Do you just pull the ejection seat and start to, and I want to give full credit to my business partner, right, for saying, look, we've hunkered down in a lot of ways, have doubled down on the business, back to culture, and saying, look, we know that this is temporary. We know that aerospace is going to come back. Clearly, commercial travel, people want to get back to traveling and all that, right? But you get through COVID and through some of the things you've seen in the news, right, with some of the concerns on aviation. We have really invested in our culture in the company, doubling down, and that's been very hard, right? And again, I want to give a ton of credit to my business partner and saying, look, do we believe in this business? Do we believe in the people that we have? To your point, retaining. We could have easily just said, hey, you know what? We're going to shut everything down. And a lot of people did that, right? Hey, we're going to, potentially go through, reduction in labor force, and we're going to do all these things. And, that's the easy button, right? Of, hey, look, let's just cut costs and do all this. And we saw a lot of folks do that. We said, no. We're going to invest. We're going to double down. We think it's going to come back. And it's, again, as an entrepreneur, I think of it as you're constantly making bets, right? It's like, hey, it's return on investment. You're going to make a bet here. Do you think, this is an investment that's going to pay off? And it can be sleepless nights when you think about, man, I got 100 livelihoods that are counting on me, right? I've got my family that's counting on me. There's a lot of pressure that goes on, right? To say, man, am I making the right bet? And it's easy sometimes to forget how much pressure can build when you're making those decisions. And I would say that, between my business partner and I over the last couple of years, we had to make some bets that were like, hey man, let's look, and you talk about trust, right?
Yeah.
Those relationships, and it's like, look, you got to trust that we're making the right bets, and we absolutely have the best interest of our employees, our customers, our partners, our families in mind. And so I would say the last couple of years, I would say, Dave, I didn't have this much gray hair 3 years ago. So there you go. It's been a fun 3 years, but now the good news is we're on the opposite end of that, and things are good, right? And now, my business partner and I can look and say, hey man, let's enjoy where we're at, and and now it's the time to elevate and continue to bring our team up and bright pastures ahead.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you doubled down on your business, and it's true that so many people bail. That is so true. You got to have an iron gut in business, and you got to look at it, and you got to look at it, and you got to say, let's focus, and let's dig deep and focus on culture. Let's bet on myself. I think that it really resonates with like Michael Jordan and greatness and everything like that, because the Collienar Group, if you don't share that, nobody knows really what the struggle is. And people can look at the Collienar Group and say, oh man, this successful company in aerospace doing great things, lots of employees. But to the employee who's got one or two employees and they're just starting out, I think it's great for them to hear too, like, hey man, even at 20 plus years in the industry, even, with a business doing many millions of dollars in revenue, it's still tough. It's still stressful. We still have those days as entrepreneurs where we think, gosh, should I just throw in the towel? And then we have to decide, nah, we've got this. We are strong. We're going to go through it. I love that. So thank you for the share. EO, it's a big thing. Two pieces with that. One, share with us a little bit about your experience in EO and how has that benefited you as an entrepreneur?
I think the experience, we kind of touched on it at the beginning. A lot of reflection, right? I think that's been the biggest thing. I joined the organization thinking, like a lot of folks do, right? This is going to be about networking and who you get to meet and all that. And there's been some of that, but primarily it's about self-reflection, right? And again, the way I summarize it is learning to work on your business, not in the business, and realizing that, as lonely as it may feel sometimes, and saying, hey, am I the only? It's like, look, very common struggles as entrepreneurs. And running your business, scaling your business, learning from others. One of the things that I heard from a NEO member not too long ago that really resonated with me is, look, you hear this all the time, right? Smart people learn from their mistakes. Wise people avoid the mistakes by learning from others that have already been down that path.
Yeah, I love
EO
it.
is a community of entrepreneurs that have been the path, that have very, very successful businesses like yourself, Dave, right? I've learned a ton from you and others in our forum and the community of, everything from, we just talked about, hey, right people, right seats, sales and marketing strategy, how your operating rhythms and, things like EOS. All of these things are tools and lessons that I've been able to bring back to our team, implement, not all at once, right? Because you don't, but there's so much learning, and that's one of the big things as a leader, continuous learning. EO has been just a fountain of learning, and it's almost been like a sponge of personal, professional growth. Even my wife, right? It's like, hey, after you joined EO, I mean, I've seen you transform as a leader, as a person. I mean, it's just so much growth that has been just transformational for me on so many levels, and it continues to be. I feel like I still have so much to learn, and part of that is giving back, right? One of the things you learn is, look, you want to give back, and now that's why I'm serving on the board, and figuring out how we continue to promote the organization and bring value to our members. And then also bringing new members that maybe, like you just mentioned, some entrepreneurs out there that are maybe on the smaller scale or learning and want to learn more and want to have a community where they can come and share their struggles and learn from others that are growth minded. So with that, if I can do a little promo, if you don't mind, Dave.
Absolutely.
There is Seattle, or so our Seattle chapter is actually hosting an event called EO Rise on May 9th here in Seattle. Brian Smith, who's the founder and CEO of Uggs Boots, is going to be the headline speaker. So he's going to be giving the talk, and it'll give members and also prospect EO members an opportunity to come join and get a taste for the organization, what we're all about. Get to meet members like yourself, Dave, myself, and others that'll be there. Great opportunity. It's anybody that's interested. Their EO is offering promo codes to come for free, right, and be hosted by another EO member. So if anybody's interested, happy to host or connect you with other EO members that can share more about the organization. But can't speak highly enough. Again, for me personally, it's been a transformational experience, and hopefully we can share that with others in the entrepreneur community as well.
I agree. EO has been a game changer. It's helped me level up, and EO has opened doors for me that have allowed me to make millions of dollars in revenue. Just in our Alchemy retreat, just in one connection that I made at Alchemy, I was able to do a $2 million deal. So at the end of the day, it does, it is a great way to build business, self-reflection, navigation, pick up tips. It's really, really great. If somebody wants to find out about this EO Rise, or if they're, an entrepreneur that's just getting started out, maybe they want to look at the Accelerator program, which is for entrepreneurs just kind of getting going. What is the website? Where do they go?
You can just go to EO Network. I think, you can Google it, or, happy to reach out to me, happy to put you in contact with the board and the right folks. So plenty of resources to connect and learn more about the organization and how to get connected.
Awesome. We're bringing this thing in for a landing. Wheels up or coming down.
There you go. Hey, you're stealing that's how I end up my podcast.
Is it how you do it? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, coming in for landing.
Okay, man, I love that. So we're coming in for a landing, and that we're gonna share that line for today. What's one final tip you would leave with our audience?
Entrepreneurship is a challenge, but it's a very fulfilling, right? I mean, as most things in life, the most rewarding things are the challenging things, and so it is a journey, but it's a very fulfilling one. And there's communities out there like the Entrepreneurs Organization of like-minded individuals to support and help promote growth. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here, Dave. And as always, learn something new. So appreciate you letting me come on.
It's been an awesome show. We've had a great time. And listen, I'm going to start checking out Wheels Up. I'm excited to listen to what's going on in aviation, and I hope that I can learn more about these air taxis, man. I'm super excited about it. I'm your host, Dave Westcott. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are back 9:15 Pacific Standard Time each week. Check me out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere where it's social. We're hanging out. If you've got some comments, drop them in the comments box. We'll get back to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like the show, give us a like, give us a share, and follow Alex on LinkedIn. He is there, Alex Ramirez. Look him up. You'll find him, and check out his show as well. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, Dave.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.